leave without a trace. Dogs screwing in the background, little baby man throwing cake. Come on, y'all, don't go berserk. It's all good here, home. Word! Not safe for remote. Word. What you got to say? Not safe for remote. Word. Hey, hey. Zooming day to day. Not safe for remote.
Welcome to Remotely One's NSFRW, Not Safe for Remote Work, where we invite employees at all levels to share their most outrageous moments while working remotely. Do you have a story to tell? We want to hear it. You can submit your story at remotelyone.com/podcast. Today's guest is originally from Louisville, Kentucky, and is now a resident of Atlanta, Georgia.
ATL, shouty!
She is an attorney, and she has worked for McKinsey as well as Kentucky Fried Chicken. But now, she is the founder and CEO of Manager Method and Manager Training Coaching. There's no other words on this because my co-host forgot to write the rest of the fucking sentence. Ashley Hurd, come on down!
Woo!
Here we go. Let's go, guys. Let's bring it. Let's bring it. Let me fill in those blanks.
Yes, we're having
you.
so much fun already. Welcome to the show. We are so happy to have you. This is great.
Very excited to be here, guys.
Set us up for what we're going to hear today because I know the world is just dying to hear this story.
Okay, well, I'll say this, that I've learned from social media comments that I'm a bit older than some of the other video posters and accounts. And so, have you ever I did have gotten the comment, you could use Botox. But the internet's too kind. The internet's so kind. But you know what? I lean into that. Yeah.
Can I hit the pause button real quick?
Yeah.
Because just about 2 weeks ago, I was the sweaty guy in the coffin on one of our episodes. What was it, TikTok, Kaleem? So I know exactly what you're talking about.
The sweaty guy in the coffin. Well, Ashley, just to let you know, I think you look great and beautiful, and you do not need Botox.
That's why I say those comments so that people will hit. Oh, you don't have to. But please keep it coming. But the internet's so kind. But I will lean into that, and I sometimes say every wrinkle is from corporate America, an experience that I bring to try to save others from some of potentially those experiences. But I lean into it, and so in that I say I was an OG remote worker because my remote work story is from 2016. Before the world had to figure out how to get all this stuff done on Zoom. And so in 2016, we moved as a family from my hometown of Louisville, Kentucky to Sydney, Australia. And we moved for my husband's job. So we moved, me, husband, and kids. And it was the most humbling experience of my life in the real sense, not the I won an Oscar sense, because I was like, I've been this lawyer. I'll have no, hopefully, problem finding a job. About 100 applications later, I ended up able to rejoin a prior company, but it was a US-based company. And so what that meant is that I had to start working from 4:30 in the morning, Tuesday through Saturday in Australia to be able to meet the needs of my US-only client. And so everything I was doing was the most remote, literally the most remote of remote work. And so I got to know Zoom and the like, but as one thing is as kind of, I don't know why people feel like this. Like when you talk about not bringing your true self to work, I didn't want people to know that I lived in Australia. And obviously certain people did. It would have been really amazing if I could have portrayed it. But so I had a 404 Atlanta area code, and I just pretended for a lot of people I lived in Atlanta. But in remote work, I was working from my kitchen table because we didn't have an office. And so what I had to learn to do was that I didn't work alone. I had colleagues that were of the 8-legged variety. Because the one downside in Australia when you move there is people say, watch out for the creatures. And where we were in Sydney does not have the snakes that open doors. That's Queensland. That's north because it's close to the equator. But we have some frickin' spiders in Sydney, Australia. And so I would be... Crikey. And so I would be, the first time I was on a call and I was just working from my kitchen table with my big headphones and talking and probably had this very top on and some yoga pants down below. But I was talking to someone And I look, I'm like, oh my fucking God, there in the corner is a big ass huntsman spider. And so what that is if you've ever seen them, it's a spider that's like literally as big as your hand. And they crawl up the walls. And so I saw this massive thing just creeping up the walls. And so I'm like, oh my God. But so, of course, I'm trying to stay on this call. I don't know why I couldn't just dodge up. So I'm carrying my laptop like this around and walking through and then people can see in the backyard, which is like a palm tree and things like that. And the people are like, I thought you lived in Atlanta. And I was like, no, I'm in Australia. And anyway, I then started revealing myself. But I had to very quickly learn the fine art of killing the spiders and detecting what were the dangerous spiders and what are the good spiders, because people will tell you that a huntsman spider is good because they will kill. But so I learned to become a spider hunter while doing remote work, and quickly learned from having my panic roam around the kitchen face to the calm, throw a shoe at it, destroy it, and actually knock that sucker out while managing a legal conference call, all from halfway across the world.
Wow.
Jesus. I almost fainted like 3 times just thinking about that.
So during that call, I mean, as you had the laptop, did you take a shoe off and crush it at the same time?
No, because I didn't have any shoes on, because I would walk down barefoot, which then I started wearing slippers after this because I was afraid I would step on one. But also because we had this townhouse that didn't have as much storage, we happened to have a broom that was against the corner of the wall. And so I was taking and roaming around, with the laptop, and had the broom, and finally hit it with the broom. Of course, then I went and got a paper towel and was like, oh God, oh my God, like cleaning it up and trying to against to get the spider guts.
What was the sound like when you crushed it? What was it? What did it make a sound? And it was like, ah, shit!
I mean, the sound was basically me, which is like this sound. Is a screaming goat. I mean, this is like basically what I sounded like.
So what time is it in the U.S.? I mean, like, so everyone's like watching you.
So this was a California call. This is why they were caught off guard, because this was like the sun had just started to come up. Because sometimes I'd be calling, it'd be like pitch dark, and oftentimes people can have a video, and I'd be like, let's just do phone, because it was like I didn't want to be clear that it was like still middle-ish of the night. But this was California, so there's 4 different time differences between Sydney and the U.S. depending on the time of year. Like they adjust at different times. So I always had a tab open on my phone to remember what time it was at different places in the U.S. and my company was national, but it was like end of the day Australian time, and or U.S. time. So it was beginning of the day. I did have a colleague in Honolulu in Hawaii, and so that was kind of lovely because we were at times 22 hours apart, and so we're talking to be almost the same time, just 2 days. So I often made the joke about like, I'm living in the future. It was like, it's not as funny. It's funny like the first time. Sometimes I'd say it and people would be like, yeah, you made that joke last week. I'd be like, that's all I got.
Right.
Well, I was waiting for my time to say, well, what would Marty McFly do? And you just beat me to the joke. You just beat me to the joke.
Beat you because I have beat the shit out of that joke. And so I'm happy to bring it up any time. That is literally all that I have.
Whatever, Ashley, you need to get Botox. Whatever.
I do.
Yeah.
You know what? You're right.
Listen, wait. Tell your friend there's 22 hours in the past to write you a letter, and do not open that letter for another 48 hours. And just write, you need Botox.
Exactly. That's it. I'd be like, I wish I knew that. I wish I knew. But it was literally, you'd be like, that's the only negative. It's also very expensive. But aside from that, like I'd see them when I was working, or you'd be lying in bed and you'd like think you see something. And as opposed to here where my kids, I'm like, no, that's nothing. It's just, there's no monsters. There would be spiders in the corner of your ceiling, like crawling. And that was just a very normal occurrence. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ashley, thank you so much for the story. Before you go, tell us a little bit about what you're doing with your organization now and how you help companies.
Yeah, so I use my experience having been a lawyer and a general counsel, and I'd moved into HR, and I found that from working at McKinsey to a KFC, so many of the conversations I'd have with managers were very similar of how do I have a difficult conversation, or how do I have a performance conversation? How do you do these things? It was really common issues. And so just a couple of years ago, I started it literally to help managers have difficult conversations better, to have the conversation and to have them in a way that it's heard, and to help employees and actually support their performance because it matters. Living in Australia greatly influenced that. The way that they work is so much healthier, I think, from a work dynamic often. And so I've taken that. And so now I have training. So I do manager trainings. I do social media content in 59 seconds or less on TikTok and Instagram under Manager Method. And I have a LinkedIn learning course that's just about an hour called Daily Habits for Effective People Management, if you ever want content more than 59 seconds. And so that's what I do now is basically take my career quilt and use that to distill into hopefully simple, practical lessons when I'm not killing spiders.
Listen, check out Ashley's. You have a TikTok as well? TikTok as well?
TikTok at Manager Method everywhere.
Yeah, she has over 50,000 followers on Insta. Her videos are hilarious. She's being very modest. We have a rock star in the building.
And despite what one asshole on the internet says, she does not need Botox. Okay?
She does not, nor does she need special
God, I love
pics.
you. Oh,
She does not need special pics either.
Thank you. I mean, sometimes.
Sometimes.
We can all use a little help sometimes.
I think we all need a little bit right now, that's for sure.
Yeah, this is my other lawyers, me.
Oh, wow, that's
great.
awesome.
That is great. That is great.
Okay. Thank you so much, guys. It's such a pleasure. I love hearing these stories, so I'm happy to contribute mine, which is probably the most SFRW than you'll have, but I like to listen to them all.
Good.
Well, thank you.
One of these days, being so close, we'll have to get together around a bucket of chicken.
I will always have some extra crispy. I mean, I welcome it every single time. I'm still a massive fan of KFC. Having worked there and still eating it, that is the true testament. Those that have worked in food service will know that's the ultimate
Yes.
way you'll eat it, and I will absolutely eat it.
Wow, you're not only a customer, but you're also their lawyer.
That's great.
Thank you so much, Ashley, for joining us. And for the rest of you, thanks for tuning in. You know where to go. Go to remotely1.com/podcast. If you want to submit a story, we're all ears. We want to hear it. See you next time.
See you next time. Thanks. Peace.